right. Welcome to the show. Somebody was out of their mind and gave me some controls today to do the intro. John is going to be hurting for that one. Welcome to Let's Talk Real Estate and Stuff. It is Carlos and I locking it down for you today. We're going to talk a little bit about real estate and then some other stuff we got going on for the past week or so. Last week we had some great people on from Call Porter and Ballpoint. And this week, it's just going to be Carlos and I, but we're going to wrap on some pretty important stuff. So please don't forget to hit the like button and the subscribe button. We don't want you missing out on anything. Every subscriber helps, and every like helps as well. Welcome, Carlos. What's going on, bro?
How we living, Puppy?
Living large, bro. Living large. Hang on. I had to cough a little bit. I was just here locking down some Chipotle in true Hormozy style. I honestly thought of Alex Hormozy when I was on my Uber Eats app walking my dog, and I was like, man, I need something with some protein. I need something mildly healthy, and I need it quick. And I saw it, and I was like, I'm going with the chicken burrito.
Okay, that was my first
I
question.
locked it down.
That's good stuff. He's doing some interesting stuff, just kind of talking high level, what he did with $100 million offers, his first book, and now $100 million leads, which I haven't gone down the rabbit hole too much, but I've seen a lot of friends promoting it. So he's doing some type of benefit of promoting the Super Bowl of, I believe, online marketing or something he calls it. So it's pretty interesting how he's able to do that. And the synopsis or the high level of $100 million offers is just making the offer so good that nobody could say no to it. So he did a bunch of cool things with his book launch, just like leveraging people through the first one offers, like value bonuses they got from the first book. And I don't know what he's doing with the second one.
Is it out?
I think it's the launch part is this week.
Okay. Because I was
this weekend.
When I was in Arkansas, I listened. He did an interview with somebody, and he was talking about it coming out, but I didn't know if it was out yet. I'm definitely going to buy it and read it. I mean, I thought his last book was definitely good, especially for even in the SaaS world. Just kind of thinking about how to structure your offer and stuff. It's different than what us realtors. It's a different, like, as realtor or not realtors, real estate investors or realtors, we think what we do is sales, and it is, but it's not. We're trying to throw money at people. We're trying to give them money versus trying to get money, right? Sell a widget, sell a product. So it's a different perspective, and it really rang true when I was when John and I were working on our AI Up Center of how to structure our initial setup, the offer, what we're giving away. So, but anyway, I thought about, speaking of social media and Alex Hormozy, so I've been on social media recently. I know you're on a hiatus, we'll say.
A little hiatus, a little sabbatical. I've taken we can talk about that more because I watched a good Ty Lopez video last night.
Yeah.
That was good. But yeah, I like to take those every so often. But your recent social media adventures led you to what this week?
It happened. What was it, like a week or so ago? And we had somebody on the episode last week, so I didn't want to hijack the epi by talking about it. But in real estate, it's very easy to show you the end product. Here's my end flip, or here's me buying the flip. Here's me finishing the flip. Here's me standing in front of an empty house, like vacant, while we're doing the demo. It's very easy to show those things. Or, hey, I have 100 doors or whatever it is. Mm-hmm. So anyway, I have gotten on and off social media numerous times. Mostly, like, a lot of it comes from commenting from other people, me not wanting to deal with it. And so when I got back on, 5 months ago or 4 months, whatever it was, and I really started to ramp it up for the mobile home parks, I really felt comfortable, like, this is my path. This is what I'm going to be really ramping up. Let me just put my journey out there as I'm trying to buy more parks. Obviously, there's a lot of looking. So I had some comments here and there, but I had one guy the other week just basically tell me all I do is look and I don't buy and I'm bullshit. And he's like, dude, you're a fucking joke. And then he unfollowed me. And he's just like, it was harassment after harassment after harassment. And I was like, hey man, like, you can't buy if you don't look. And then he said some fuck F you, shit. And he's like, you're an effing joke. And I was just thinking to myself, like, that's what it's come to. And it didn't bother me. Like, normally that would have bothered me and I might not have been posting again because I would have really dwelled on it and allowed it to affect me, but it didn't. I just kept rolling with it because I was like, what the fuck does this guy think this is?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I just magically gonna buy $1 million mobile home parks and just be like, oh, I want it. Here's another one. Oh,
Right.
3 and 4. Like, I look at so many and I'm dialing every day for them. I'm talking to wholesalers, talking to agents. I've been working on this since I got my first one like 12 months ago. I took maybe a couple months off while we really got that one up and running, but like I've been constantly looking for the right park. But I think in today's day and age, it's like they're just so used to like, oh, look at my portfolio. Like the journey of actually building that portfolio, what that really looks like, and the rejection. Because, and then he made fun of me because I knocked on an owner's door and I got rejected. He's like, I knew that would happen. Like, wow, like I
He's
kind
probably
of,
watching the show right now.
he probably is. He's probably like, and I was like, well, I kind of figured I'd get rejected too. I hoped I wasn't going to get rejected at the guy's door, but he had already sold them. I missed out. I was late to the game, but he was polite. The owner was polite. He was like an 80-year-old dude. He thanked me, wished me my luck on like my, you know what I mean, my hustle, what I'm doing, and sent me on my way. But he had a couple parks I missed out on. But I just
Yeah,
thought that was something to bring up, just the way social media is, that people always think the portfolio builds itself and that there's not a whole lot of looking or the stress that goes along with building it.
it is. Social media has a ton of pros and cons. One of the pros, I think, though, and just kind of being in the space for a while, and I think this is true for any type of marketing or sales or really any business that you're in, just letting people know what you do.
Yeah.
It's like if you're able to do that consistently, it's like evergreen marketing to a certain extent, or some type of marketing
Yeah.
where you're not paying for it financially. You're paying for it with consistency. You're paying with it with whatever mental toll that goes on with people commenting. My friend here that we mentioned, Antoine, like I think
Yeah.
he has like 10 of those a day where he used to
Yeah.
just go block people. So I would just say block
Yeah.
that guy or
Yeah.
gal. But it is interesting, social media, and it's a platform where everybody has their own audience, and we're even seeing it with media nowadays, like political media, sports media, whether it's McAfee show, even though he's going to ESPN, but people are kind of preferring to source their information directly from a person instead of like a network or a bigger organization. So it's
Yeah.
one of those things. It's like, and I have done it where it's mainly sharing either like podcast stuff or random investor view stuff I'm traveling to or meeting with clients, which are friends at this point, because business and life has always been really, really integrated for me since I've only done real estate since I've graduated, but it is an interesting thing. So for me, I mean, you're a very charismatic, likable guy. You're able to make stuff entertaining instead of just pulling up like a pro forma of a park or something like that and screen sharing and like going through. You're able to have
Yeah.
fun with
Yeah.
it. So that
I
I
just
see
thought it
that
was
as a good
wild.
sign. I see that
But
as a
no,
good
I
sign.
get.
It is.
I,
Humans are fascinating creatures.
it's
Humans are
like,
fascinating creatures.
and I get it because like a lot of people are silent during the journey. You know what I mean? And then they
Yeah.
pop up and they're like, "Oh, I own whatever apartments," or you
Mm-hmm.
know, but they don't really. Not a lot of people talk about the what goes into it. Like I follow a couple guys that I don't personally know. We've run into each other at some masterminds back in the day and stuff, and I've seen them kind of graduate from wholesaling to apartments, right?
Mm-hmm.
And true apartments, not like multifamily, but just the apartment industry of multifamily. And it's
Mm-hmm.
like the only time you hear of them wanting to do that is all of a sudden they get a deal and they're raising money. And it's like, and no shit, like they'll talk about everything else, all the other shit they're doing. They'll post checks. And I'm not saying in a bad way, these are good guys, but like they'll post a check, they'll talk about their course, they'll talk about wholesaling, blah, 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 blah. And then all of a sudden it's like, we're taking down a 42-unit apartment complex. We have a blah opportunity. If you have money sitting around, invest with me. And I always say, like, did that just fall in your lap? Like, what? How did you get that?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not saying as an investor, someone who's giving them money may wonder that, but I'm just like, and that's the problem, is all of a sudden they have the deal, but what about the cold calling or the post in the mail or the acquisition calls or the rejection for the other 10 before you got that one? No one posts that shit. The only time I see people posting is when they have the deal and they're trying to raise the money. Very few people are like, I'm going to meet an owner. Oh shit, I met the owner and now I got rejected. On to the next one. Where is that shit?
Mm-hmm. Like Pace, like day one, starting
Yeah.
his social media, doing stuff like that.
And so that's what I'm
He's
doing.
really incredible.
I'm just like, man, like I'm out at these parks. Here's what I'm doing. Like, and yeah, you see me out there and I'm not buying them. Like
Right.
I looked at a whole shit ton of them. I am writing up an offer on one right now. Well, it's my counter offer. We've been going back and forth. Um, but like maybe it gets accepted, maybe it doesn't. I have
Mm-hmm.
no idea. It'd be a great property. It also has some little ifs to it that I don't
Mm-hmm.
feel comfortable with. And if it doesn't go through, like that's fine too. Um, but that's, you know what I mean? Like a lot of people are raising money for deals, but you don't see the path to get those deals. They'll talk about it on Steve Trang later on after they've succeeded. They'll talk about, and you know what I mean? Like
Right.
retrospectively what happened, but not in the moment.
Mm-hmm. So is that something to double down on?
I
Like
think so.
in
I
times like right now, for wholesalers, let's just assume, our typical customer avatar that's listening to this, maybe a wholesaler that's been at least wholesaling, that has been consistently closing deals in their
Well,
career.
look at RJ Bates. Look at what he's doing, right? Like he doesn't talk about the shit afterwards. He's just films. He literally does nothing. He's the simplest. I don't know him at all, but from what I see, like the simplest person. Let me just put a phone up, record myself talking to people. A lot of rejections, a lot of FUs. He gets some contracts, he doesn't. It's real. I think Hormozy, going back to him, has ruined a lot of social media because the next generation of people copied his style. And it's so primmed and propped and proper and like
How would you describe his style to someone that wasn't familiar with Hormozy in the context of like if he was a real estate guy, like what would his content be like?
not scripted, but primmed and propped up
Mm-hmm.
content. It's filmed with a professional camera. He sits down. He's scheduled. A lot of it is scheduled. They're scheduling content creation. He's saying
Mm-hmm.
his ideas. He's had pre-thought, precognition of what he wants to talk about, and he does it. Now his earlier stuff, like he's even talked, is like a lot of it. He's just like, I don't know what I'm going to say. I'm just going to say some shit. And I'm not speaking about so much the content, but I am the videos. The captions, the proper lighting, the editing, the backdrop, sitting in a chair, standing in front of your big backdrop or in front of a plant. You know what I mean? Like it's all that style content, that raw content that started social media. I think that's going to make a comeback. I think
Mm.
people want to see that. I think it should. I think it should because I think people want to see the real shit, not the hey guys, I have a content creation this week. What topics do you want me to talk about? And then
Mm-hmm.
they schedule and they make like 50 videos that weekend. Like what happened to the real shit where I watch you in your office and I
Mm-hmm.
just see you guys joking around or I see you getting rejected. That's what wholesaling content was for the longest time.
Yeah.
That's how you picked your gurus is because you saw them in their office doing the work. Now content isn't about doing the work anymore. It's about showing the result. And I think and so now when I'm showing the work, people are like, bro, like, what, aren't you going to finally buy something?
Yeah,
I
it's
don't know.
showing
I hope so.
it's showing the result, and then it's almost like an arms race to getting your content quality to like the nth degree. Like if
Yeah.
you're willing to spend like 40K a month
Fuck.
plus
And they
on
look
just the
good.
content quality. Oh, they look amazing.
The
And
studios,
super
like,
digestible. Like that's
yeah.
like I'm grateful
Quick
that we live in a
clips.
time, yeah, that I can just like literally because I've spent so much time in my room just doing like the ice machine and the knee machine. I can't go out to my living room. The guy just picked up the machine today actually. So I'm literally just like on my iPad, just like ingesting all different. I'm like Neo in the scene of the Matrix where it's like teaching him kung fu or how to fly a
Yeah.
helicopter.
God.
I
And,
just
and
do
like,
2x speed with captions, but I appreciate it to that extent because
yeah.
it's super digestible, super clean. But the other people are more raw and they might be a little bit closer to where you're at and may even be better for where you're at for building social proof and belief of like, hey, this guy's got a park or two. He's showing me what he's doing in this time. I'm just
Yeah.
studying mobile parks, another commercial. Like, is this
There's
maybe I'm in a discovery stage of like, do I want to do mobiles? Do I want to do storage? Do I want to stay in wholesaling? So this is
But
a
you
good
don't
guy to see
have
his
to
day to
do
day.
like the print, like even Pace stuff. Like he has his scripted shit, you could tell, but he has a camera following him around for a lot of stuff. Like I
Yeah.
noticed even like Alex Casada started doing it too, like cameras following him around. So like even the shit he's talking about, he's like out at a storage unit building, meeting people, and he's got his professional cameraman clipping, editing quickly, professional videos. That's different. The quality's good, but the content's raw. You know what
Mm-hmm.
I'm saying? Like you see
Yeah.
the journey of like what he's doing. And I think like that's kind of what I was talking about is like that journey watching versus I've already succeeded type stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I've already bought the property. I'm raising funds. I'm cutting a check to my investors. I don't know, but
It's interesting. There's levels to it for sure. The Ty Lopez video I watched last night kind of intrigued me because I've watched a couple of his videos the last couple of days, and he was big when social media came out. He was really
Yeah,
a pioneer for
I
social
remember
media.
him.
The hey, here I'm in my garage. I forget what he said, where he had like a Lambo in his garage and like all the books. And his claim was that he read like 3 books a day or something like that. And then I think he changed it to one just to make it like more believable. Even though he says he reads 3 books a day or read some. But his social media break was interesting, and he was talking about. There's a few things that are interesting here. One was the different tiers of stuff coming out, of like different entrepreneurs getting into a class coming out. So in 2013 ish range, when he was like, social media was kind of like picking up with like Facebook and I think like Instagram, stuff like that. He was really the tier one entrepreneur of teaching people how to do social media marketing. You go to a mom and pop 60, 70-year-old operator of whatever type of business that has money, that's ideally rich, and they say, hey, I'll charge you $1,000 to $10,000 to run all your social media. You'll have this return on whatever Facebook ads, whatever that you run. Then after that, a few years later, there's a tier two of all the people that learned from him. So he was there for a few years for tier one, all the people, maybe the first couple people that took his class or the first few people that took his class. He's coached over like 100,000
Yeah,
people just social media marketing, if not more. Now we're getting into a tier three where he's like kind of getting back into it, or that's coming in the future, where it's people that have kind of seen high level for a while, maybe have other business perspective, and now are able to enter in at another time more effectively. So it's interesting. He was talking about like that, human nature as well, which is interesting in marketing. He was talking about just business structure, where the very first thing is persuasion. That's like the number one variable for business success. And
yeah.
the persuasion starts with you on a not only just like a
Persuade
overall, but like a
yourself.
daily persuading yourself, like, hey, this is possible. Hey, I can do this. So
That's a
fascinating
tough. That's
stuff.
a tough thing too.
It
It's
is.
like there's a lot of aspects to it, and I think that's. But I think that's also why a lot of people don't film the journey
Yeah.
because maybe they're not 100% all the time. It's easier to film the aftermath than it is the journey. It's kind of
Well,
like
that's
the
social media
difference. Like,
too for civilians. That's
yeah,
social media too,
do
isn't it? Just like
do you
highlight reels.
remember like the original like way reality TV back like an MTV style like way back in the day? It was so raw. It
Hmm.
was just like they stuck some cameras in a house and then it just like that was it. But now like it's just everything's fake. Like you feel like these reality shows are all scripted, fake. Like
Mm.
it's gotten so unbelievable that you don't really believe it's reality anymore. And I think that's kind of where social media is going, like way too many scripted content stuff, not enough true journeys, because there's always something. Doesn't matter where you're at in the thing, whether you're starting out on the phones or whether you're running a big office or whether you're taking down apartment buildings. There's always shit in your day that I think is important that people could be putting out there. So
I'm with
anyway,
you on that. I kind of like this marketing discussion though. So for like somebody hearing this, like, you know, there's been uncertainty. Different people have different opinions on, I guess, how the market has either negatively or positively impacted them. It seems like it's been more negatively. One thing that I've noticed of late, though, a lot of people that I've talked to, like on sales calls or kind of in Zoom passing, when I talk to them about their marketing, they say they get a lot of referrals. It seems like I'm just kind of like a, without an exact number, just
for
a kind of
what?
a qualitative
What?
pulse. When I ask them
In
how
what
they're
aspect? Like,
generating seller leads, they're getting a lot of referrals
yeah,
from agents in their market without
yeah,
doing a lot of agent outreach. So it almost brings it back to the point of like how much of that is just being a known person in your local market,
yeah.
um, and someone
I
that
can
can deal with like
say,
really distressed properties.
I can say that I'm not very big on social media just because of my presence. Like I'm trying, I'm obviously working at it now, but the amount of opportunities I've gotten now from mobile home parks just from talking about it, I'm always astounded at people who think I'm bigger than I actually am. Like they're
Mhm.
sending me $5 million parks and shit. Like fuck, dude. Like I hope I could buy a $5 million park that I can raise the funds for it. You know what I'm saying? But
Mhm.
it's like, yeah, you put yourself out there, and then these other, and then most of them are wholesalers, right?
Yeah.
These wholesalers are reaching out, and it's like, well, a wholesaler is no different than a realtor in another aspect of it, depending on the angle. But like, if you put yourself out there, like if you build it, they will come. The old Field of Dreams saying,
Yeah.
and like you can work with all these people too. You just got to put yourself out there. Like a lot of the stuff, like this one that I'm working on right now, was because I started calling agents and I called this guy. I'm out there looking at agent listings. The other two that I'm going to next Wednesday. So I'm going to two more up in North Carolina on Wednesday.
Oh, nice.
Oh yeah, great parks, mismanaged completely. Just like property management companies just horribly ruined them. Um, but that's from Facebook, messaging people on Facebook. In fact, I posted so much like responding to people that I get emails now from people who see me like, hey, I see you're looking for a park in Facebook. I have this deal. Can you look at it? What do you think of it? Are you interested in buying it? You know what I mean? And so you gotta put it out there.
Yeah, no, I hear you, and I'm thinking of the way to best describe it, but like if you're thinking of the highest chance of success and just different variables or levers that you can pull on,
Yeah,
doing that type of stuff makes sense because it's
yeah,
not money out of pocket. It's almost like, I guess, ego, for lack of a better term, or kind of like dealing with haters or whatever. It's like, hey, I might as well put this on social. It's like free marketing or essentially free eyeballs or attention,
yeah.
which is what advertising is in a sense. So I like that. What other variables or levers are there? There's
I mean,
increasing ad spend. There's different marketing channels you could get into, but
yeah, I
that's
definitely
going to
think
take
I
money
think there's
energy.
other stuff like so I realize, and I'm speaking of like outside of wholesaling stuff, right? As you grow as an investor, because I think wholesaling is the entry level, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you're going to want to start investing, and then you're going to need to raise money. And I realize that, like, after I buy this park, probably, and maybe these other two in North Carolina, God willing, they happen, network is going to be pretty tapped out. I'm now going to have to really work on my advertising to raise more private money. What can I do for that? Like, I've already thought of some stuff, not just making content geared to it, but like emails. Also talking to more people, investor meetups, more masterminds. Like I've already talked to my wife about like I got to go to more of these things. So like even our attorney hosts like a virtual one for syndicators, and like that's something I want to go get my name out there. We've worked on elevator pitches. So one of the things my attorney does is she hosts like this mastermind and you work on your elevator pitch. And like I've started using that and I actually feel pretty good when people ask me what I do. How do I present myself, right? Where I'm not just presenting me, but I'm also leaving it open ended to start a conversation to potentially have you interested in raising in investing with me, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. It definitely does.
So it's
Um,
and those are things like working on those things. I think yeah, and you so that way anytime you meet somebody, you got your elevator pitch, work on your email, work on your content, and I think that's how you put it out there to be able to raise the money to do the deals and to grow into what you want to do.
that's all good foundational stuff that doesn't cost you maybe not
No.
any money, but much money out of pocket, as much as a direct mail campaign. If we're talking about like last week's episode, another thing I've noticed an uptick of are posts on Facebook of people almost saying around the same thing, pretty much like a Facebook post elevator pitch. Like, hey, are you tired of your money sitting in the bank and do you want
Yeah.
double-digit returns with
Yeah,
real
I
estate as
don't
the collateral? So it must be, and I think it does work. It's the same thing, just letting people know what you do. Like if I was to post, it'd be a little bit like niche. It's like, my Facebook is probably a majority real estate professionals, and then a third of people are like civilian friends from Baltimore mainly.
yeah.
But if I was to post just every day, just completely spamming people or just posting every single day, like, hey, are you a real estate professional looking for a lead management CRM? And then just like beneficial or any educational content based off of that, like that would at least kick up some DMs and some conversations. So I think it definitely works with capital raising on Facebook because I noticed a
It does. I don't know
ton of people
about
do it.
like what you're allowed to do and not allowed to do depending on the
SEC
type yeah,
regulations and stuff like
depending on the type of fund.
that.
I something that as I go into it, I'm gonna have to ask her what I'm allowed to mention and not to mention for raising capital when I advertise. But like the elevator pitch, because you're not really pitching, and it's also like you're not really pitching a deal, but it is there's like two different style, like problem, solution, and proof, and then the ask. So you present the problem, you have a solution for that problem, and then the proof of the solution, and then the ask of like where you kind of leave a well, you go for the ask, right? You ask them
Mhm.
if they're interested or they know anyone who's interested in investing with you. Or you could do it in a different way where it's like, what do you do? Who do you do it for and how it benefits them? And you sculpt but it should be quick. It should be 30 seconds. Like when I had initially done it, she had corrected me because I'm prone to too much detail, and she was like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, bro! Like that's a little bit too much. Like you wanna leave a little something to be desired." So those
Right.
are different ways that you can script your elevator pitch.
Yeah, that's interesting stuff. And again, something that is that
And you can
needs
do
to
it
be
for your
done.
CRM too, not just for capital raises, but I think a lot of people don't have elevator pitches when you're going back to referrals. Like even as a wholesaler, what do you do for a living? Oh, I wholesale properties. Like what is the problem? What is the solution? Well, do you know how people have homes that they don't want to fix up, or they have homes that they don't know what to do that just become a burden? Yeah. Well, that's what we do. We typically come in and buy them cash as is, sight unseen. And we typically can make pretty good money doing it. We can get returns of blank. Do you know anyone who'd be interested in doing something like that or something, or if it's flips, it's a little bit different. We buy them and put a group of investors together to raise money to buy these types of properties. And we typically get double digit returns. Would you know anyone who'd be interested in doing something like that? And you kind of sculpt it that way. So that way, anytime somebody asks you, you're advertising for yourself while you're introducing yourself. It was like
Hmm.
quick 30 seconds.
Love that. Love that. So networking, I mean, hosting your own event is really cool. Like I was
Yeah,
just that
that's
kind of
fun.
fell into my lap. Manifest like serious definition of or example of manifestation where was driving by a cool building on my street.
Yeah.
Uh,
Are you hosting an event? Is that what you're trying to say?
no, I'm not right now, but I'm
Are you
saying in the
going
past
to?
in Baltimore. No, no plans of it right now.
Oh, I thought that's where you were going with this. Is like
No,
you're
I'm
about
saying
to.
this would happen. I used to host an event for like 3 years in Baltimore on my
Oh, no.
street. So like a 5 minute walk just right up my street. But I see a cool building, like a commercial property that's like a fitness center and a juice center and they a juice bar or whatever, and they have like a area up top where they host like weddings or other
Yeah.
events. And I just like said out loud in an Uber, me and my friends were on the way to take a train to New York for like a Knicks basketball game. I was like, man, that building is like super cool. A week later, it ends up being, I end up getting on a Zoom call with DC Investor Fuse clients. And they're like, hey, instead of doing our next Zoom, we could do it in person. We own a property in Baltimore.
And it was
They
theirs.
end up they ended up owning that property and they wanted to get connected. They usually rent that place out for like a few $100 for a couple hours,
Yeah.
whatever it is. But they wanted to get connected with more Baltimore people, so it was kind of like a win-win. I was like, "Hey, I'll just fill this place with Baltimore people," and they just let me host the event for free. Awesome guys! I
Yeah.
saw them the last time I was in Baltimore.
That's
Actually,
Greg Simpson hosts that. He runs that TB RIA.
I want to go to one of those. I'm hopefully going
Yeah.
to be in Tampa next month, and I want to see if anything
Yeah.
overlaps there.
He does them on Thursdays. Yeah, that's definitely something I've been thinking about doing one in Lakeland, but I'm not as outgoing where even in college my roommate was the one who always threw the parties and I was just happened to be there, so I got the
Mhm.
benefit of it happening at my house or our house, but I never had to do any of the work, which is why I got into this business, and he now runs a giant kind of bar distillery company. It's like a progression. I mean, he's great. He's a what do you call it, like an extrovert. You know what I mean? Like personality wise, you host these events. Same thing. A lot of these guys hosting events are very extroverted. They love that type of stuff. But I respect it because those events, man, you
Oh
definitely
yeah,
meet some people.
yeah. I'm definitely somewhere in the a middle of that where it's like I was shaking hands with every person that came in the door and connecting people in person there and stuff like that. But I definitely had a lot of help from the guys that own the building as far as like setup and everything like that. But that was cool, and that's a good way just to be an absolute like authority. Like anybody that's there, it's like you're the top
You're the
authority. If
guy.
you have
You're the
anything,
guy.
yeah, you're the guy or the
You're
gal.
the
Yeah.
guy.
Um,
Um,
so that's cool. I mean, the Lakeland meetup would be cool. I don't know if that's like inline priority next thing for you to do personally, but that's a
no,
potential lever to analyze for sure. Like
it
that'd be kind of
is.
cool.
It is pretty cool. I mean, we have a list on our board of things we're trying to achieve in the next 1 to 5 years, but um, those things are on there. But right now, it's mostly buying these parks, man. That's why, I got to stack them up, but it's a slow process. Everyone I talk to says it's like a hockey stick. It's always slow, and then all of a sudden ramps up. So we're kind of maneuvering some stuff around here. We're thinking about moving our one person who does a lot for our call center and maybe slowing the call centers down stuff. And I will say I am contemplating potentially using Call Porter. It was
Nice.
something as I'm shifting my focus. I was like, where can I shift my resources and my focus? And like, what is it that instead of me doing 100% myself, I could maybe employ or vendor out somebody to do it?
Yeah.
um, because the parks is really, really what we're going into for the cash flow type of stuff. Um, so I got to make this offer, man. Anyway, like I'm putting some stuff in here in this LOI. That one of the things that weirds me out is the guy. He wants to say they want to stay in the park. So we talk about post occupying on wholesale deals. How about post occupying your 28 unit $1 million mobile home park where the son wants to stay in one unit and the mom and dad staying in the other unit while you take it over. So that means you got 26 units of the 28 with tenants, the other two with the previous owners.
Would they be your tenants though?
So that's what I'm putting in here. It just, so when we took over our other park, it took a while for them. The guy didn't live in there, and it still took months for them to stop bothering that guy. I don't know how that's going to be with the owners literally living in the park. We take over, and like the tenants still looking to them as the people in charge. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like, and what do they say when I start making changes? I mean, they developed this park in the 80s. So, like, what happens when I start ripping shit down or like ripping out their fruit trees and shit?
Right.
And like, not that I'm going to do that. The pears actually look pretty good, but um, he used the trees as a selling point when I was out there.
Interesting. Yeah, that's I feel like every deal is,
Is
you know,
unique.
can get a little creative. Yeah, it's each deal is unique. For mobiles, I'm curious. Are there any like Facebook groups or any
Yeah.
community aspects that you like chat with people and you could like throw that question to some people like, hey, here's a deal I'm making a offer on or sending an LOI on. Like, how would you
Yeah.
guys chop this up? You
So
have
I,
resources and access like that?
so I join multiple Facebook groups. Like, I got banned by a couple because apparently I violated Facebook's fuck Facebook. I violated some Facebook rule and they banned me from anything that like a marketing stuff. But anyway, the ones that I'm still a part of, yeah, I mean that's what all people do. It's just like the wholesaling pages.
Gotcha.
You know what I mean? A lot of the gurus start them, and then people post deals on there. People ask questions. Like I had a couple questions, and I had a question about the grandfather. I talked about it on this episode. The answer that I talked about, I got from asking people in that mastermind, like that Facebook group, and I got a
Mhm.
bunch of people explaining it to me because I was not knowledgeable of it, and so then I go and regurgitate. Like that's what I've been doing on my Twitter page. Is like as I'm learning stuff and I'm asking people who are better than me, I'll just post it on Twitter. Like here's what I've learned, and that's kind of what I've been doing. Like I was posting one yesterday about like when to sell your park. Like what's a good metric to use when it's time to sell one of your parks. I didn't know the answer to that, so I went and found out. And I'm like, here's what I was told. And
Yeah.
so like it's truly like a journey of stuff. So yeah,
This guy, I'm going to type his name just so you can see. His name's Clayton. He's a Investor Fuse member for the last few months here,
yeah,
and seems really cool when I've chatted with him. But I've told him, I'm like, man, your Twitter, your X feed is just like really really cool. It's pretty much what you just described. It's just like he just talks about like the land business and
yeah,
marketing and just like different stuff. William Salas, a guy down here as well, he's big into like Twitter and writing stuff out. And it's just, I don't know, it's creative in a sense, but in another way, it's just very simple and logical. Like it's talking about deal breakdowns or like a lesson that you learned from a deal
yeah,
or how a negotiation went and maybe a tip off of that negotiation that somebody
yeah,
else took. It's interesting, like a stream of consciousness, but staying on the point of one specific thing that happened in your business
yeah.
is pretty cool. But
I
Clay,
just
the
I
guy
just
is chatted
started.
to is really cool.
I was typing so much on Instagram and like doing like in the stories, typing up my thoughts in Instagram, and then I realized they disappear. And I'm like, well, why am I not just putting this on Twitter where I actually it stays there, all these thoughts, these ideas. So that's when I started using it. But that's what I do. I mean, I don't have the money right now, but one of the things, like once we buy one or two of these parks, like everything we have is going into running the parks. And like once we get these other ones, I think I'll be ready to maybe join like a mastermind or two. I know everyone says join them beforehand, but like my opinion, Carlos, is like MBA school. Like I was always taught with MBA because I knew a couple guys who went graduated and stayed at college and then got their MBA, and then I knew people that went out, got a job in the corporate world and finance, and then like 3, 4 years later went back and got their MBA, and they had some real world experience. So then that MBA, that master right, in business meant more to them. They could relate more to it because they had this experience. And I'm kind of like the same way with masterminds. Like I got to go do it.
Yeah.
And then I want to go talk to people about it. I don't want to just join and like get that sugar rush where it's like, oh, this, I think I know everything. Now let me go do it. I want to have some experience first before I go because I want real value out of it, not just hype.
Hmm. That's one of the things I picked up from Kazada's interview with Steve Trang, the most recent one, where I guess it was more so if he like
Yeah, that
learned
was
a
good.
course
That was a good.
or
That was a
it
good
was
one.
really good. But if he was like taking a course or learning something, his most important thing, which it's interesting how the brain works too, is just like taking immediate, like even like just a small action on something. Like, for example, if we were talking about like, hey, one of us wants to start our own networking event in person, you would like just Google storage spaces or warehouses and call like 10 of them and just be like, hey, is this open for like an event holding space? So I think that's how you have to do it with a mastermind, whether you wait to your certain point in business or if you're earlier on, like when you're learning stuff from masterminding people, just like implementing it and taking action on it, like as fast as possible. I think that's maybe what he said his superpower was, like the speed of him implementing something that he learns from a course or a mastermind to actually like doing it in his business. Like you're never going to learn an entire thing. Like you have a
Yeah.
module or a book, like it's never, in his
No.
opinion, which I agree with in a certain context, like it's never good to read the entire book and then go back and start doing it. It's like chapter one, marketing with cold calling, or chapter one, data. Where do you get your data from, or data best practices? Chapter two, cold calling. It's like,
Yeah.
all right, I'm making cold calling like while I'm in the cold calling chapter. I'm not waiting until it's, setting up LLCs to maximize tax
Yeah, I
implications and
mean,
stuff like that,
I agree with you on that. Like I think those things are important. And that's why, I'm still so like I'm still a part of and I log in on Wednesdays and I've been doing it more the last month or so, like Eric Brewer's Novation trainings on
Oh yeah.
Wednesday. My attorney has hers Wednesday, like an 2 hours before Eric's one. So like I'm like, you know what? Let me just you really got to stay focused on those things. And then the podcast, obviously, there's a lot of ways to learn, but I'll tell you what, I've learned more from writing up all these LOIs and all this underwriting on these parks and actually doing it. Where although I only own one, I feel like more of an expert because I have looked at, visited, driven to, talked to, like negotiated so many of them that I haven't gotten that like and mistakes I made in negotiations where like I'm like fuck I'm glad I didn't get that one, like that one would have like there was one I was negotiating at 1.2 with 100K down on a 3% seller carry, 2%, I think it was 2% seller carry with like a 12-year balloon. It was a crazy good finance term, but like I hadn't picked up, so here's a little tip. I hadn't picked up on the things that he was saying because of my lack of experience, right? And I kept hearing it's a good park. It cash flows great. It cash flows great. I'm cash flowing so good off this thing. It just pumps off cash. Why do I want? And they kept saying it. Why do I want to pump off cash? This thing does nothing but spit cash out to me, Brandon. You're gonna have to make me an offer that really makes sense. So it did. The price I negotiated was an overpriced deal, but the terms and the balloon payment, I basically had him amortize the whole thing out. It was like going to be like 100 grand left on the deal that I was going to have to refinance and get my equity back out. The rents were way under the whole nine. So when I was in Arkansas, I drove out there. Even though we had lost the deal, the guy changed his mind. I negotiated for 3, 4 months. I was devastated. I was like, fuck, this was my park. This was it. The terms are great. He's telling me how great this park is. Like, I went through everything.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, I told my wife, I'm still going to drive out there. I flew out here to look at these other ones. I'm going to take the time. It was 2 hours out. So I took one of the days I was out there and I drove 2 hours up to like the upper east coast of Arkansas, the east corner. And I went out and I looked at this fucking park. And I swear to God, I saw a drug deal happening. The fucking units were trashed. The road was ripped up. There was water heaters laying on the ground, tarps hanging over roofs, chickens running around. And I learned what spitting out cash means. It means that the owner loves getting so much cash from his property that he's not reinvesting any of it, which is why my offers that I was making weren't as enticing to him and he kept asking for more because he's so used to getting 100% of his fucking income
Mm-hmm.
that he wasn't reinvesting anything into it, and his units were trash, the road, the infrastructure. I remember calling my wife and telling her, I'm like, I'm upset we didn't get it because obviously I want parks, but like I am glad this guy said no because
Hmm.
it is not worth anything at this price to like this park is a D class park. Like there was a fucking drug deal happening, bro. Like I swear to God, I'm. It's not that I'm a drug dealer, but like when one guy walks up to another guy in a truck and they do this hand thing, and then he immediately walks. I'm pretty sure what I witnessed was a drug deal.
Did that guy end up selling to somebody else?
No,
Did he get somebody at that price?
so no, he loved my offer. He loved me. That was not why he said no. He said no because my monthly payment was going to be shit, man. I'm going to fuck this up. I think it was like close to 3K, and I think he wanted like 4 or 5K, something like that. But the whole
Mhm.
park spit off 10 at the time, 10 or 11. And so he wanted more. And he was like, Brandon. So he called me up right before we went through everything. I talked to the city. We were at terms where we were sending out contracts. And so I had his call scheduled to send out a contract. And then he didn't pick up and he texted me this long text about how he just couldn't wrap his head around accepting less monthly payment when he's getting so much cash from his park right now. And he said, maybe in the future I'll sell it. He's like, I really appreciate you. Stay in touch with me, keep following up, but like I can't I can't something why I would give up all my cash flow to take lesser cash every month, lesser payments every month.
Well, he's taking lesser cash, or he's going back into his own pocket to turn the
But
place over.
and that's the thing is he's not going to. He's just going to keep milking that motherfucker forever. And that's why he's got all these vacant units. So anyway, like I learned that like now I can understand a little bit better because it happened to me what sellers mean, and maybe I won't be as naive to think the park was as good as what it is. Like in wholesaling, I used to train my sales team. If they say it's great, it's good. If they say it's good, it's average. If they say it's average, it's bad. If they tell you that it's bad, it's a piece of shit. Like it's a tear down. And that was true because sellers always upsell their property. So like,
Yeah.
and I guess I was just too naive in the park industry. I really thought I had a gem, and I go out there and it's like fucking drug deals, chickens, like just crazy shit happening. It was a D class neighborhood. It was
Mhm.
horrible.
Good experience, though.
Yeah, and I would
Good
have never
experience.
known that. I probably would have dwelled on losing that deal and thinking blaming myself for some shit for months because I was that close to getting the contract signed. And then I go and see it, and I'm like, oh, I feel a little bit better now. Like I feel better about this.
That's so funny. Well, hopefully North Carolina brings you some good luck here in the near future.
Yeah, I'm going up Fayetteville outside of Charlotte.
Nice. Yeah, my dude Bob
I
Sleeves.
was about to talk
He's
about
in
him.
Bali. He's in Bali.
Yeah, he bought that property out in Bali.
Uh,
I've been trolling
he's the
Facebook
man.
so much that now when I'm dialing, I'm trolling Facebook. He keeps popping up on my Facebook. I guess he uses Facebook for a lot of his like social media stuff.
Yeah.
And he just bought, I think, out in Fayetteville, a park. And like he's now in love with. I was gonna reach out to him because he had watched our show for a little bit, and
Yeah.
like I know he had commented a couple times, and he's Investor Fuse, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
I was gonna reach out to him because I don't know what size park he got, but like yeah, and he bought that Airbnb or whatever out in Bali, and
Hmm.
now he bought a mobile home park, and he says he's in love with the mobile home park industry.
Dude, hit him up. That's the king of Fayetteville right there.
Yeah, I might have to. So anyway, I'm flying out Wednesday. It's through a wholesaler, so I've been negotiating these parks and trying to get seller finance terms. Like one came attached, the other one I told him I needed seller finance. So, you know, I can't get approved through I'm not getting approved through a bank. So banks will
Hey,
not like me.
seller finance doesn't need as much bank, if at all.
No bank. So I mean all of these are full seller carry that I'm negotiating. So for people
Hmm.
that say it's not possible, it is. This one's a 0% seller carry. Um, the other one's at 6% and the other one's at 6.5, 10-year balloons. 30-year amortizations, great payments, great. Those are value add ones. This one's not so much. This one, I got the guy down from 1.45 down to 1 million.
Wow.
Um, he wants half a mil down.
Thirty
And then he,
percent 30% shaved off his asking.
yeah, yeah, I'm not going to say, and the realtor told me because I'm going through a realtor on this. I've been negotiating seller finance terms and I'm finalizing this for the realtor now. And then I got to call him and explain everything. So I'm negotiating my seller finance through the realtor who then has to go negotiate with the seller. He said that people had offered this guy the $1 million before, and he has said no. But none of them have went out to visit him. I took the time to drive 6 hours in the morning. I left at 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning, drove up to meet the guy, sat with him, talked with him, got him down to 1 million. I'm not going to say I did. It wasn't even a hard negotiation. We just kind of chit chatted and I gave him some options, and those are one of the ones that he chose. And
Mm-hmm.
then I drove, he told me to take some pears and figs off his fruit trees, and I grabbed some for my mom and my wife, and I drove on back to Florida the same day. And the realtor said the only reason why he thinks is because I went and visited this guy in person.
Yeah. Belly, yeah. I mean, in-person appointments are definitely a thing. As far
Belly,
as
were you going to say belly to belly?
I was going to say belly to belly, and then I was like, what am I going for here?
Bro, that's the saying.
Belly to
That's
belly
it. Belly to
sales.
belly, bro.
Yeah,
Belly to
belly to belly
belly.
sales. The discussion there, I think, is mainly like velocity and how many leads you have coming in. Because obviously, if you go virtual and you're not going to see every single property, you can get more offers out, talk to more people. So if you're closing at a lower rate, you could still end up net positive or higher than that. But yeah, I mean, if it's something like this, like a commercial asset.
Yeah, it's not as many. Like I can't do that for single family. Like I'm going to see one wholesale deal that we're trying to take down here on Sunday. The owner wants to meet me on a Sunday, so I'm gonna drive over to Davenport. It's like 30 minutes to meet the sister on Sunday. I can't do that for all of the deals we're calling and the leads that
Hmm.
come in, but for mobile home parks, why not? I was in Arkansas. I drove the entire state of Arkansas. I looked at like I don't even know, 10 parks, 11 parks. I looked at like seven. And one of the days I was out there, I looked at 7 parks. I did the old, where you go on Google Maps or MapQuest and you start like lining out like
Yeah,
your path. And I did it. And I visited them, sat down with some sellers. That was that.
that's
Not
awesome.
nothing came of it, but they want to know. Some of these people, like on mobile home parks and commercial and even self storage, like they develop these things. Everybody's calling them, even if they're not ready to sell, and none of them were. Like even the guy sat in his kitchen, he wasn't ready, but he said, I moved to the top of the list because I came out to visit him and no one else had. And I think that's something important. Like, go visit these people if you can, even if it's not a contract in hand type of visit.
Mm,
Put your face there and develop that long term rapport. Like, even when I'm out in Arkansas, the people who own the park near mine, I go and visit them. I pop in, I joke around with them about buying it, I ask them advice, and then I leave. And
mhm.
I do that every time. And and I think there's value to that. It doesn't always have
Yeah.
to be virtual sales, even though
Yeah,
that's
plant some
mainly what
seeds
I do.
and water them. Yeah, plant
Yeah.
some seeds and water them every so often. You never know what's going to sprout up in a year or two.
Isn't that how you started out, like in Baltimore? Like back in the day, we didn't do virtual. You couldn't do virtual shit
Everything.
back in the day. Everything was
And
in person.
what's so funny too is I was erasing some notes. I haven't told you this, but pretty much lost like a note on my iPhone that has like all my passwords for life. And I didn't delete it. Like I was on with Apple support. I was able to see it on devices. Like each device, I saw it for like a second, and then it just disappeared to the point that the last device I checked, my iPad, I was able to take a picture. I'm like, hey, here's the note, like before it disappeared. Anywho, I had so many notes. It was even from 10 years ago
Yeah.
when I'd be at a property and I would just take. So I literally was like reminiscing through old notes last night, just seeing like random
Yeah.
stuff. But yeah, there were some long term follow ups in there. The one specifically that like me and Dan talked about was like a lady in Baltimore on Jefferson Street, like 2425 Jefferson Street, right by Johns Hopkins Hospital.
Mm.
Um,
Yeah.
Distressed family on drugs, stuff like
Yeah.
that.
I was about to say
But
that area.
literally had like butt dials from them talking about like drug use and stuff. But yeah, that was just following up, staying in touch. I was doing my own version of Google Maps, kind of driving around. I was like, oh, I'm going to be right by Jefferson
Yeah.
Street here today. So I literally just taped a handwritten note to their door, like, hey, this is Carlos. We've spoken, talk about
Yeah.
the property. And then I think it was still 3 or 6 months after that it closed, but I hadn't heard from them for a while. They were always rotating phone numbers and stuff like that, like burner phones. So yeah, but go and then went to see them in person to lock it up. So that helped as well because it was like
And,
multiple family members.
when we had Tyler on, he had talked about it and going belly to belly or doing in person appointments. And it's not that I'm against it. It's just the volume thing that you said. It's
Yeah.
like I can talk to more people. Like, listen, if I know I have to go meet somebody or hire somebody like a runner to go meet somebody to get a deal done, I could do it.
Yeah.
But like on the parks, it's different. The parks is like it's a much bigger deal. There's less volume. There's less quantity volume of deals going on, and I got to go see them too. You're talking a bigger purchase price. So it's just different stuff. And Tyler said he couldn't, like the park he sold me and the one that he got from the guy, he said he couldn't lock it down virtually. He had to go belly to belly with, I keep saying belly to belly. He had to go belly to belly with the guy to get the first one, which ultimately got the second one, which is the one that I bought from him on, assignment or whatever. Um,
Hmm.
it's just the way to do it. And like the one I'm buying on assignment from this other wholesaler who's got two of them, like they're very transparent. Like they're not hiding their fees, they're not hiding me from the seller. So it's a little different in the mobile home park how wholesaling works is versus the single family stuff.
Yeah, that is interesting. Um, and I think you've mentioned this before, but would you consider moving to one of those areas? Like if North Carolina just pops off
Yeah.
Fayetteville.
So one, I think Fayetteville can. No offense, Bob Shortsleeves. Hey, bud. Fayetteville has 400 mobile homes in its mobile home parks in its MSA. If I could scoop these two, I'm coming after you. Healthy competition will raise comps all across the board in that area.
Love that.
But no, the answer is no and yes at the same time. So I would love, so the one up in Arkansas has a house and a bunker and a fucking huge ass garage, and it's near our other park. That one, yes, I would love to buy. They have a phenomenal property. I would love to use it as like a summer house or something. Arkansas is a beautiful state. Honestly, I never even gave Arkansas a thought my entire
Mhm.
life until I bought this park. Um, One of our things on the board, Carlos, for our family and what we want is our goal, like our mission, is we want to buy a converted bus. Someone's already converted it. They're out for sale. You could go to schoolies.com, I think, and you can find these converted schoolie buses that families have done. They're done with them. They're now selling them 30, 40, 50K. We want to buy one and travel to all of our parks to check in on them monthly. So
That'd
it's
be
not that
cool.
I want to move to one of these places. We want to be able to travel as a family and go visit our parks, manage our parks, check in on them monthly. That's why, so we're trying to develop like where I'm buying, I'm being strategic about it. So like I'm looking on major highways, I'm looking for like a path between all the parks. So yeah, so we'd
Do you
be
have
just
one of those? Do you have a map in your room with like the thumbtacks, like almost like a police investigation, where
I
they're like, "Where
should.
are all these murders?" You should do that,
I
and do
should, but
like
I
one where you own, like one color where you own the park, and then the other
yeah.
one's like the desired area. And you're kind of just
So
visioning, like you're seeing that every single day, like a vision board.
I use Google Maps. Like when I'm looking at parks, I type the address in and then do directions from like my house to like where our park in Arkansas is or where like we're looking at these other ones. I'm like, okay, like how would I drive here? Like so I'm taking all like my end game, I am taking into consideration as I am shopping. I've turned down parks in Pennsylvania, New York, Ohio, Iowa, Illinois, people sending me parks in all these other states. I'm turning them all down. I don't want to look at them. I turned one down in Texas. There was a great seller finance one in Odessa. Turned that one down. I don't want to look at it. Arizona, the same guy selling me this has a phenomenal seller carry out in Arizona. I'm not even looking at it. It's not where we like have our life planned. And so
Hmm.
we're doing something very specific for our family with these parks.
Love that. Great North Star
So,
to have.
so bro, I'll be cruising up. You got a house up and I'll cruise by Asheville when you're up there with your family
Do
in a
it.
big schoolie bus after we visit our properties.
Asheville's beautiful. It's funny, even some people down here are like, they say they like Asheville or like North Carolina too. They're like, man, if I lived anywhere else, would be there. So yeah,
In North
North
Carolina's the
Carolina is
state,
beautiful.
bro. I was talking to a guy yesterday that I've known, and I was talking to him about potentially investing and what he's looking um, for cash flow and all that. And we were talking, and he had mentioned that if it wasn't for his kids, him and his wife would move up to North Carolina. And I laughed, and I was like, bro, same thing.
Preaching
Like,
to the
if
choir.
I was like, yeah, and I was like, what is it about North Carolina that everyone? He's like, it's the mountains, it's the air, it's not as hot, and I'm like,
Mhm.
everybody wants North Carolina. I don't know why.
That might be the new wave because
They
I've
call them
heard on
halfbackers.
podcasts when they go back and forth.
No, halfbackers are you move from up north, you go fully south to Florida, realize it's not everything you thought it was, and instead of moving all the way back up north, you go halfway back up north, which is North Carolina. So they call it a halfbacker.
Oh, I haven't heard that. That's a good
Yeah.
expression. Um, but yeah, it'll be interesting to even see. And again, I'm bringing up Ty Lopez, another video I watched of him. Of there's also a lot of people searching on Google and then also actually doing it of moving out of the country, like best places to live outside of the U.S. Because who knows what's going on, just like the world in general, the United States.
I
But
fucking love America, bro, but I think America has lost its way. That yeah, I've seen. I mean, Max Maxwell moved out. He
yeah,
moved to Dubai, right, or Saudi Arabia,
hmm
or wherever he moved to. And one of
hmm
the reasons he said he didn't feel safe in one of his posts, he just didn't feel safe. He built that huge ass house. Him and his
hmm
wife moved away. Didn't feel safe.
hmm
I agree.
I
Some
was
of this
there. I was there as he got it, and it was just like a dirt mound, pretty cool.
Mario, yeah,
Mhm.
he's just you build this $1 million house and then you bounce because the world has changed. The U.S. is going to go through some shit. So
It is indeed.
I don't know, man. I mean, I would still be fine. I love America. I think America will endure. But Florida, yeah, I love Florida
Well,
though, but
I love
I would.
Florida.
North Carolina is different.
Yeah.
Arkansas,
But yeah, it'll be interesting to
topography.
see because I've heard people talk about South Florida, like I guess when they grow up. I'm thinking of one guy specifically that's on the Valuetainment team, but he said when he was growing up, South Florida wasn't like the,
Yeah,
kind of like a high
my fam-
demand place to
my
be.
family's from Miami.
Yeah,
And my mom grew up in the my mom her side of the family grew up in Miami in the 50s and 60s.
yeah,
Nothing like this. Even when I visited as a kid in the 90s, nothing like it is today.
yeah,
Y'all are wild down there.
yeah. We
It's
are.
it's
I don't categorize myself on the wild side, but it is interesting down here. I'm curious what the next place in the United States is going to be though. Does it become like a North Carolina? Do people want to be like more self-sustaining and grow
I
their own
think
food and
I think so. I think I'm biased though
or
because of
like
the
Montana?
algorithms.
Do people really go to like Montana?
I think we're done with Montana. I think when Yellowstone came out, COVID, Montana and Wyoming were the things. Ranch prices went way up because I'm always looking at ranches out there. Um, but like I think with all the craziness in the world going on, like, and I'm again biased because I've like the algorithms are showing me this stuff because I am interested in it. Homesteading, family, religion, growing your own food, holistic healthcare. I think those things are becoming a bigger thing than we realize.
Hmm
Single family incomes again instead of dual incomes, homeschooling your kids. I think all those things are making a wave. So yeah, I would agree with you that North Carolina. I think you could do it in Florida too. Like I know where you live and where I live is very suburbanized, but there's a lot of places of like northern central, like north central and north Florida that is
hmm
still very rural where you could get a lot of land for cheap.
Interesting. Very
I
interesting.
think that's going to happen.
Yeah, I
Um,
could see that.
North
North
Carolina
Carolina
is
and like
growing.
North Florida.
Yeah, South Carolina, Georgia, all those places, Arkansas, Kentucky, Tennessee, they all have great land for you to do that type of stuff.
Hmm.
So
Will be interesting to see, man. Are we going to be able to do next week's episode on Friday, or do you want to do it earlier for traveling and stuff?
no, I'm going out Wednesday, one day. I'm flying
Oh,
out at
okay.
like I'm gonna fly out at like 5 o'clock in the morning, get up there at like it's an hour at flight, hour and a half flight, go see two parks, meet the owners, meet the agents who are running them into the ground, and then I'm not gonna say anything. But like, bro, I've read their notes and I'm like, somebody needs to fire these agents. And then I'll fly back that night and be home for bed.
Love that.
So yeah, I'll
Love
fill
that.
you in. I should know by the end of the day today if I get this park, and I got to raise more than $500,000 to take this park down. So it'll be one of my biggest raises that I've ever done, which is kind of scary, but like I'm pretty sure I could do it. I know I can. So
Definitely.
I'll lock it down. 28
Awesome.
units, baby,
Love that.
and then I'll go
Love
out
that.
there
Well, this
this
is a
winter in North
fun.
Carolina.
Yeah, this is a
Yeah,
fun app. I think we might have some. We'll have some level of updates next week on travel and this LOI and
yeah.
everything like that.
I gotta talk to Jordan on Monday from Smartphone. I was going to see, like you said, maybe he wants to come on the episode, come
Yeah.
on maybe next week and talk about some texting because I know his software has done a really good job of the compliance and like because I had to
Mhm.
go through it because we're huge smartphone users, and I'm meeting with him to talk about some data stuff, and then maybe I'll ask him to see if he wants to come on an episode and talk to us about regulations and compliance and how smartphone is really leading the way in something like that, and what he thinks about it.
Absolutely. I think that'd be really good to get,
I
especially
don't
get
know
him
if we
on
could
for
get him
another
on
month.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't know if we can get him on next Friday if I talk to him Monday, but maybe the week after. I don't know how busy. I know he's a busy man running a successful company. So, but I'll see if he can rap with us a bit.
Cool.
Because if anyone doesn't know, smartphone is integrated with InvestorFuse, which is how
It
I do
is.
all of my dialing. It's real easy, and I push my leads, my mobile home park leads, directly into InvestorFuse, and that's how I do my follow-ups and my dialing stuff. I upload my list or my direct link from InvestorFuse back into smartphone to do my daily dialing.
Love that. Love to hear that.
So yeah, lock and load, guys.
Cool, guys. Well, this has been a fun episode. Papa P, thank you for leading us off here. This is fun, just the two of us.
Yeah,
And
dig it.
we'll catch you guys next week. Have a fantastic weekend, everybody.
Lock and load.